Welcome to this month in Linux Gaming, where we go over all of the new things that have happened in the past month with, well, Linux gaming development, either it be Proton, drivers, game launches, and many other things. So let's get right into it. The first one is about the news with AMD deciding to stop updating their GPUs, the RDNA 1 and RDNA 2 GPUs, to stop game feature updates for those drivers. But for some reason, they've kind of backpedaled or clarified on this whole situation. So originally, when this got announced, RDNA 1 and 2 were no longer going to get any more game feature patches to try and improve gaming performance or graphical bugs, etc. But they did clarify that it said new features in bug fixes and game optimizations will continue to be delivered as required by market needs in the maintenance mode branch. So that's what an AMD spokesperson said. It's very weird of how they've said that. I don't understand necessarily how that's going to work, but what it does mean is that you will, I guess, still get driver patches. You'll just be in that maintenance mode. Now, some people were thinking about the Linux side of things. Well, that is not the case. It's two different drivers. You've got Mesa, and then you've got the Adrenaline drivers on Windows. Two completely different types of drivers. One is mostly proprietary that I know of on Windows, and then on Linux we have Mesa, which is an open source driver where anyone that has the knowledge and has the experience can contribute to the Mesa driver stack, like Valve's graphics engineers, for example, are maintaining a lot of AMD GPUs on Mesa. So when it comes to driver patches and stuff like that, those things are handled rather properly, I would say, in the Mesa driver stack for these RDNA 1 and 2 GPUs, especially with Valve using the Steam Deck. Steam Deck runs RDNA 2 graphics. So when it comes to RDNA 2, at least with that, Valve is maintaining RDNA 1 as well, and even older GPUs. You should be perfectly fine when it comes to mostly like gaming side of things. And that's why I always say to mostly use the newest Mesa driver available, because it will give you the latest patches for the latest games that you want to play on the Linux desktop or on a particular handheld. But it is pretty disappointing to see that AMD has gone down this path when there are GPUs that came out like 2 or 3 years ago that I would say are considered still supported, but AMD for some reason wants to put it in this maintenance mode, whatever really that means. Basically just, I guess, really important patches that need to be added to the driver would be added. And the next one is about Bazzite. They have done a new fall update, updating a bunch of different things within Bazzite, either it be Fedora 43, the Xbox handheld, or the Legion Go 2, or Nvidia GTX related things. They have done a lot of improvements. So the first one is, if you want to donate to Bazzite, you can go and donate to the distro on the Open Collective, and they've created a European and US collective. So it says here, if you don't know what Open Collective is, think of it of like a Patreon, but backed by foundations, which means more transparency for you as how we spend your donations, and perhaps more importantly, ESP, as the year closes, a potential tax deduction for your donation. And it does say that you can donate to the EU or US regardless of where you are, but of course you may have to pay a little bit extra depending on the currency conversion and all those things. Then, as you can see here, there is the new handheld support, which is the Xbox Ally and Ally X. Quite funny, I would say, to see this getting supported on the handhelds, because as you know, Xbox is trying to, or Microsoft is trying to make this whole new Windows handheld experience, and the experience isn't really that great in my opinion, and lots of other people don't really like the way it works and way it behaves, way it does things. The UI of things don't look or blend that well with Windows. So it's really good to see that Bazzite has added the support, which is, again, really good to see. And you can see the Legion Go 2 has been added as supported, and the 1X Player X1 Air, which look like some very amazing devices, I would say. And they also did add the Sway Play OX1, which is a company that has partnered with Playtron OS. If you don't know what that is a separate Linux mobile handheld UI, basically replacement to SteamOS, and they decided to partner with this handheld company. So if you do have this handheld, you can install Bazzite on it. If you want to, like, let's say you want to get away from the whole like crypto stuff, you can install Bazzite on it and get a different experience. And when it comes to the Nvidia Turing, Volta, and Ampere GPUs, you'll still be able to use the drivers on Bazzite with the Nvidia closed image. Now, it does indeed say here that when it comes to the Nvidia closed image for those GPUs, you are only going to be able to use the 580 Nvidia driver because of them being able to support a dual driver module. So that's very interesting. So this driver is an LTS release and will be supported for the next 3 years. So you'll enjoy security fixes for this period of time as well. So if you do have any of these GPUs, you should be able to use this, and then you'll get kind of like an LTS release for 3 years. Then, of course, with Bazzite, they do have the GNOME 49 release and the KD Plasma 6.4.5, which is the bug release of 6.4.5 that also released on like the same day as Plasma 6.5. So sadly, they weren't able to get 6.5 included into this release, but they will soon bring that over, and you guys, people who are using Bazzite will be able to get that new feature release of KD Plasma. And I would say one of the best Flatpak GUI stores that I personally do use currently, that I actually do have open, Bazaar, is pre-installed on Bazzite, and it is hands down one of my favorites Flatpak GUI stores in my opinion. Then something really nice that I've seen with Bazzite, because I always thought about this, why Bazzite didn't include any of this, because it's like a gaming distro and it tries to include as many drivers as possible to try and support as much different hardware that like drivers are not included in the kernel by default. They're like out of tree drivers. Like, why aren't those included? Well, they did indeed add steering wheel support, at least with the out of tree drivers that a lot of people like to use to get different steering wheels working. So as part of our new kernel magic that enabled Nvidia closed to state, we added a bunch of steering wheel drivers, specifically the HID-TM-FF2 for Thrustmaster, then the other LG4FF, or like the newer one for the Logitech wheels, and then the Fanatec FF for Fanatec wheels, and the T150 for the Thrustmaster T150 wheel. And then they do also pre-include the Oversteer GUI application, which, if you don't know, is a really awesome application to configure your wheel globally across different games. If you want to change the rotation range, combine pedals, look at if everything is working properly with your button, steering, clutch, brake, acceleration, all of that D-pad, force feedback changes, different tools that you can set, like the center wheel if you want that. You can do different tests as well, and then set up different profiles for different games maybe. A really awesome GUI application that Bazzite is now including in their distro. Then there is some things that are being removed, like the Asus Surface images. So in this release, we say goodbye to the Asus and Surface images. Both classes of devices have first class support and our main images now, and removing these builds free up important computing resources. So I thought they were actually going to drop these, but now reading further, they're not dropping these, which is really good because they're already in like they're in the kernel or something already, so they don't have to maintain these like out of tree drivers anymore. Specifically for Asus, this means that you will lose access for the Asus control software you use to set up fan curves, but even without software, RGB brightness and power control are both functional on main images. We just need to add IDs missing for certain laptops if that's not available. So that is a bit disappointing that you are going to lose that ability. I think I did hear someone in the comments talking about that, so that's a bit disappointing. And then for the Asus Z13, we brought both RGB support and fan curve support to handheld Damien, and we all would love to do that with your device too. So this is the time to get in touch if you want those features to keep working. And it does say here that if you want to keep the Asus control, GUI software, that you can layer it on the image and then keep it installed. That's probably the last way that you do things on Bazzite, if it's like not supported in Bazzite by default with the user space options, is to layer it. But of course, they may muck things up if Bazzite changes something. That layered package could break something on Bazzite. So that is, of course, the last option that you would do. Then another thing that did get removed is the latency flex, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically before reflex and anti-lag were a thing on Linux in Proton, but this software could get you banned, and it actually did get me banned when I decided to play Overwatch competitive. I got suspended when I tried to use latency flex. This was like 3 years ago when I tried to use it, and it worked well, but it did get me suspended in Overwatch. So now we don't really have to worry about that because anti-lag and reflex are both supported on Linux now. So latency flex is now being removed. And they did also decide to remove the KDE wallpaper engine plugin. So the plugin that I decided to make a video on, I'm pretty sure it's a similar one. They decided to include it for Bazzite for a while, but a lot of people were experiencing a lot of crashes and problems, which for me, if you don't notice right now, I am running a live wallpaper, and this is not with the KDE wallpaper engine plugin. This is with the Smart Video Wallpaper Reborn, which you can easily click on get new plugins and sort by downloads, and it's the first one available, and it has 0 problems now. Before, there was a video decoder problem with certain live wallpapers, and it was a Mesa problem, and now that that's been resolved, you can see that the live wallpapers work perfectly fine, and I've just been using like Minecraft ones, and when it comes to where I get my live wallpapers from, it is a pretty simple website called Mo Walls. This website allows you to grab all types of different live wallpapers that you store, of course, on your device, and then you can easily select them with the Smart Video Wallpaper Reborn, which if you go add new videos, you can add new videos. But as they say here, if you do know how to use it properly, if an issue is found when you try to select a live wallpaper, you can re-enable it, so you can reinstall it. And it does say here that you do need to restart your system as well for it to get fully installed. And of course, if you want to donate to Bazzite, you definitely can, to support out, the future of Bazzite still being maintained and such. And then we do have where Bazzite will show up next, which is FOSDEM 2026 and Scale 23X, two Linux conventions, you could say, where they're going to just talk about all different types of future and present Linux things. And then the last thing is, if you are going to layer packages, remember to do these 2 commands if you're going to do it so that it doesn't cause any problems. And then, of course, with every Linux gaming month video that I do, I always have, the latest G Proton updates, the latest CashUS Proton updates, and then Proton, as usual, doing their weekly or bi-weekly updates of Proton Experimental, just fixing more things within Proton, making it better and better for all types of different games, and then improving Wayland as well in Proton-EM runner, and then GE Proton and CashUS Proton, bringing those things in, making it better so that you can use the Wayland driver if you're into testing that experimental driver. When it comes to Proton Experimental, they've fixed a lot of different games like Marvel Rivals crashing in the benchmark mode on AMD GPUs. Personally, I was benchmarking it a couple weeks ago and I had no issues, but I guess maybe particular AMD GPUs were having that problem. They also did fix Assassin's Creed Shadows and Wild Assault incorrectly warning about being installed on a HDD/hard disk drive. And then some regressions like Batman Arkham City should display the splash screen correctly again. Added support for voice recognition of additional languages in Phasmophobia, so that's good to see. and updating Wine Mono to 10.3.0. Some Proton 10 regressions, like the camera panning should work as expected in Dungeons and Dragons Online. And then also with haptic support with DualSense controllers, which should now work in most games that support it. So if you do have a PlayStation DualSense controller, those haptics should work properly now. It was confirmed by the Proton-EM runner / ETASH, did confirm that it does work on basically all the games that he is playing with haptic support on a DualSense controller. So of course, if you do have a problem with that, I would definitely open an issue on the Proton GitHub so that it can be resolved quicker. And then the last one I'd say is they improve support for Sony controllers in Tekken 8. So that's also really nice to see. Then we do have Openrazer, which if you don't know what Openrazer is, well, it's basically the open source version of the Razer GUI application, whatever they call it on Windows. The open source version, you could say, where they try to support as many Razer devices as possible so that you can configure it, like the RGB and things like the, I'm pretty sure the DPI you can change as well. I know you can't create shortcuts in the application, but I do know that you can change things like RGB, etc. And as you can see, they support a wide range of Razer devices, and they continue to add more and more new devices. If we looked at the latest release, they added the Razer Blade 16 2025, the Razer ProClick V2 Vertical Edition, the Razer Firefly V2 Pro, the Tomahawk ATX, the Huntsman V3 Pro TKL, the Blade 14 2025, Basilisk V3 Pro 35K Phantom Green Edition, Blade 18 2025, ProClick V2, the Death Adder V4 Pro wide and wireless, and the Razer Black Widow V4 Mini Hyperspeed, in a decent amount of improvements and bug fixes. So really awesome to see. If you are, you have Razer devices. I do have a Razer Death Adder V2, I think, or V3. I can use that on Openrazer, and it has no issues with customizing different RGB and all that. It is an amazing piece of driver in software, I would say. And if you are someone that owns a Lenovo Legion device, they are adding a new Extreme Power mode that is going to hopefully just improve how the performance goes with the Lenovo Legion devices. So today's Derek Clark, who has been leading the efforts around the Lenovo Legion gaming drivers for Linux and ensuring good support for the Lenovo Legion Go handheld on Linux, sent out a new Linux patch series this weekend. This new patch series preps the Lenovo WMI Game Zone driver for an extreme platform profile, but one that isn't currently reliable with existing Lenovo devices / firmware. However, plumbing this mode does ultimately address some unexpected performance mode behavior for devices on Linux. With some devices, when users have run Linux and switched to the performance platform profile, it hasn't matched the expectations. Derek Clark explained with the patch series, this series adds a new extreme platform profile mode and uses it for the Lenovo WMI Game Zone driver. It also prevents bugs that are being reported by some users by switching the current deny list to an allow list. Currently, there are no validated models, so I have removed the unused quirk until something is added to avoid the warning. So if you do own a Lenovo Legion device, like a Legion Go or one of the Lenovo Legion laptops or something, this should improve the performance. If you do switch it to like the highest power profile on like a Linux desktop, you should have zero problems when this arrives. Which, if I had to guess when this will arrive, it probably would have to be like kernel 6.19, or it might be downstreamed as well to, the recent kernels that we are using currently. And something very interesting, which I am very happy to see, is that Nvidia is continuing to support a lot of the open source things, which is really surprising to see. The past couple of months, they have been kind of like shifting to more open source side of things when it comes to their new kernel driver, which is called Nova, a Rust driver. Nvidia is starting to post actual Nova driver patches to prep for the next gen GPUs from Nvidia. Pretty crazy, I would say. And it's not just this, it's not just Nova, it is also places like NVK. NVK has been improving at a very nice pace, I would say, and at least I would say another year or two, I think the NVK driver is going to be a really awesome decision or choice for the user to use over the proprietary Nvidia driver. And there's another Phoronix article that I'm going to talk about very soon of another thing that got added for, or will be added soon, and will be improved on in the future. But for this, it's really awesome to see that Nvidia is posting more patches for the next gen Nvidia cards on the Nova kernel driver. And it's even to the point that they actually are giving out, what are they called, NDAs or something, to particular open source developers who are working on things like NVK and Nova and the Novu or Nuvo, whatever it's called, Linux NVIDIA drivers, so that you can't see what they're doing, but then they're going to patch the code anyways. But still, really good to see that NVIDIA is doing this, trying just to improve the open source side of the graphics stack. And I guess I'll talk about the other NVIDIA projects that have been brought up recently, which is CUDA. So if you don't know what the CUDA basically is meaning, is CUDA. So CUDA is the API driver on NVIDIA GPUs on the proprietary side, so that you can do compute workloads, and you can use things like DLSS and many other things on the NVIDIA proprietary driver. A developer was able to basically do this, just like hack around and create a Galillium 3D API implemented atop of the NVIDIA CUDA driver API. So basically translating, you could say, from CUDA to CLUDA to try and get at least it functioning. So this is a very early working version of CLUDA. And it was like, I'm pretty sure I was reading through this, and they just hacked about in the recent days, and now it is a thing. So hopefully in the future, this is what I'm thinking about is, with NVK and Nova being improved, and then you have CLUDA, which could do all the compute stuff, and then you've got the next one, which is a Valve developer gets initial DLSS support working on the open source NVIDIA NVK driver, which is truly insane to see that a Valve developer has been able to just implement this stuff properly. And as you can see, it is like a demo running of it trying to do DLSS, and they were able to get it working. So in the future, you have NVK, which is improving on VKD 3D performance as well, DLSS support getting added, maybe reflex being added in the future, maybe a couple other things that need to be added, like ray tracing improvements. Then we have CLUDA to people who want to use compute workloads or maybe AI related things. Maybe in a couple years, CLUDA could be good enough as a replacement to the normal CUDA. And then the Nova kernel driver replacing the Nuvo or Nuvo kernel driver. And there you go, you have a fully open source driver where you can use all of these things, and you don't need to rely on the proprietary NVIDIA driver, which I feel like this is kind of a plan that NVIDIA is cooking with Valve and ALABRI. I'm trying to get as many developers to try and just work. That's my theory, at least, is to try and just get a good open source alternative so that they don't have to keep supporting, let's say, the older GPUs that they're going to abandon after like 10 years of driver support. And of course, improvements for the newer GPUs so that like my RTX 2060 could actually be used with fully open source drivers, and I would never have to install the proprietary driver. And of course, I am going to make a NVK updated video just to show, comparisons of how well it's doing with the gaming side of things. If things like DXVK and VKD3D performance has been improved or not. I will definitely be doing a video about that in the coming weeks ahead. Then we also do have Linux 6.19 is finally going to add the Logitech G13 Keypad after 17 years after it released. So if you do own one of these, you are going to be able to use it in Linux now. You're going to be able to actually add keybinds to it and do types of different shortcuts and maybe even use that joystick properly in different types of games, it should be able to work. At least the basic functionality should work. And it does say that, 6.19 will be coming out around early 2026. So maybe Jan, it might get released. This will be added. And of course, there'll be RC releases of 6.19 if you want to use it early and try and see if this actually works properly or not. Then also with 6.19, there's going to be more sensor monitoring being added with the Asus ROG Strix X870EH Gaming Wi-Fi 7 motherboard. So if you do own this motherboard, the monitoring side of things with sensors on the motherboard should work properly now. And then there's also more Asus motherboards that will have working sensor monitoring in kernel 6.18, which is releasing soon. It's on like RC, 4 now, I think. So there is going to be the new HWMON driver for the GPD handheld devices, which I did talk about last month in Linux Gaming, I'm pretty sure. So that's going to be added, which I definitely do remember because I read this whole thing and it took me quite a while to read it. But as you can see, all of these devices are gonna be added in terms of the driver. The HWMON driver is going to add support for these. So when it comes to monitoring and control, will now work with this driver under Linux to enhance the experience for these interesting devices. And then when it comes to motherboards, Zeus EC sensor driver is going to be adding the B650EI, the Prime Z270-A, the Pro WSWRX90E Sage SE, the ROG Strix X6070E-E gaming Wi-Fi, the ROG Strix X870-I gaming Wi-Fi, the ROG Strix X870E-E gaming Wi-Fi, the ROG Strix Z690-E gaming Wi-Fi, the Z790E gaming Wi-Fi 2, and the Strix B850-I gaming Wi-Fi, the TUF gaming X670E plus Wi-Fi, the X670E-I gaming Wi-Fi, and the Z790-I gaming Wi-Fi are going to be getting sensor driver support with those motherboards. And with the other hardware monitoring things that are being added, things like the Dell Optiplex 7040 is being supported in the Dell SMM driver, and then the Strix Halo for the K10 temp driver, and support for more Family 1 AH models to the K10 temp driver too. So lots of monitoring stuff and of course peripheral support being added in 6.19 and then 6.18 as well, that is coming out very soon. And of course, when it comes to the modding side of things on Linux, one of the most anticipated mod launches, I would say, for Windows users that want to move over to Linux, but they're kind of waiting for the modding side of things to be improved with the whole Nexus side of things. The Nexusmods app, which does support Linux with Proton and native games as well, I presume. They did, of course, many different releases, mostly just bug fixes and improvements to the UI, just adding little things to get ready for more bigger game support that is going to be added. Like one of the most important ones is the load order rework, which is we reworked the load order backend used for Cyberpunk Red mods in preparation for adding Bethesda load order support required for games like Skyrim and Fallout. So that's probably the most important one with this release. I guess the other one is Stardew Valley FOMOD installer support. So if you do use that, you are now able to install that. But the most important one, I would say, is the load order rework. So in the future, I guess maybe 0.20 if I had to presume, or 0.19.5 or something, we will see probably Bethesda support being added more fully, because I do know that you can do it right now with an experimental mode, but it has a lot of problems. And if you do have the AONEO 3 modular handheld console, that is going to be being prepped for better Linux support with the new driver. So with this new driver, it can handle the modular management for this modular device, plus the hardware monitoring support as well as power management. So as you can see here, you can swap out different layouts if you want to change it around, whatever layout you prefer. That is all being added into the kernel so that it can be supported properly. And the next one is about Valve contributing to 12-year-old Hawaii GPUs. Like I said before, Valve's engineers love to try and contribute to almost every single AMD GPU, I would say, trying to improve ray tracing performance in like RDNA 3 and 4 GPUs and performance improvements and game fixes. Valve does, or at least their engineers do, a lot of work trying to keep Mesa as good as possible for things like AMD GPUs with like REDV. And then even when it comes to things like the NVK driver, as you've seen, they've started working on DLSS support. Things like that really show how amazing Valve is at least contracting developers to keep these GPUs maintained on those drivers. So as you can see, Valve developer contributes open source driver fixes for 12-year-old Hawaii GPUs. Timur has landed REDV and Radeon SI changes today, focused on workarounds for the command submission register allocation hang and an Hawaii GPU hang found with the REDV Vulkan driver, presumably due to a hardware bug. So if you have those GPUs and you play Dota 2, it says here, in 30 minutes of gameplay or when watching a replay, there would be a hang. And then the Linux port of The Rise of Tomb Raider was another game/benchmark where hangs could be observed with the Hawaii GPUs on Linux. So really awesome that these are being added, and it should be backported to the Mesa 25.2 stable series drivers. And then, of course, on top of that, we've had Mesa 25.2.5, Mesa 25.2.6, and they've been adding tons and tons of different driver fixes for all types of different GPUs. Either it be Honeycrisp or the Apple Silicon Vulkan driver, the NVK driver, just improving it with the NAK compiler or NAC compiler backend. Lots of fixes for like Ampere GPUs, REDV Vulkan video fixes, which is really good to see. Some the mitigated GPU hang on the Hawaii GPUs, those were added. In the Mesa 25.2.5, there was multiple Intel, more Intel fixes, Zinc driver fixes, just lots and lots of different fixes to just improve your drivers further so that you have a better experience with the open source driver stack on Linux. And then on top of that, there was an important patch for the Nouveau, if I'm saying that correctly, if I remember, that will help with the NVK performance side of things. So really amazing to see that they're continuing to just improve it, and it's going to be introduced in kernel 6.18, so that's really good to see as well. And it did say here in the driver patch that you could lose up to 50% performance without this patch in some cases, which is really insane, I would say. And then one of the bigger ones, if I didn't say this last month, I swear I did, or no, I did say it last month, but I corrected myself in the video because 10.16 just came out as I was posting last month Linux Gaming. But I will reiterate this again, I guess, is Wine 10.16 did release with the NT-Sync support. So I guess the thing we're waiting for now is for Proton to switch over to NT-Sync from F-Sync, if they're ever going to do that. They probably will at some point, because NT-Sync, I would say, it's just better when it comes to the compatibility of the APIs that can be translated on Linux from Windows. So really good if Proton could do that. But of course, if you are using GE Proton, it is enabled by default. And if you're using CachyOS Proton, you can use an environment variable to force it. And at some point, I guess, CachyOS probably will switch over to NT-Sync as well by default. And then I guess the newest one that came out was Wine 10.18, which did improve the WoW 64 mode. So if you don't know what that is, it's 32-bit to 64-bit. It's translating it basically because Linux currently is trying to basically retire 32-bit libraries. We've seen this happen with Debian recently on Debian 13, that they've dropped like 32-bit support, I'm pretty sure. And then as we've seen, Wine is trying to also improve WoW 64 so that they can kind of just remove the lib32 libraries on things like the drivers with Mesa, and then probably with Nvidia as well. I think they have 32-bit libraries just to try and retire it, even though it is, I guess it is maintenance burden, it's, you know, maintaining it, but is this the correct path? I don't know personally. I haven't tested out WoW 64 enough to really give an opinion on it, but it is good that they are improving WoW 64, at least in Wine. We're seeing this push to just improve it further. So I would say that is basically it for this video. Of course, I probably missed some things that got posted or talked about, etc. If there's anything that you saw with Linux gaming throughout this past month, definitely comment down below so that we can, I can like the comment or something and go, hey, that's really cool that that's being introduced or that's being fixed. Really nice to see. And of course, if you guys did enjoy the video, definitely give it a like, definitely subscribe to the channel, and thank you to my supporters. I'll show a text across the screen. Thank you for giving me money every single damn month. I really do appreciate it. And when this video gets posted, and it's already happened, we are at 18,000 subscribers. So I really do appreciate everyone subscribing to the channel. It's been a long time running this channel now. Like, I say a long time, but not really. It's been around like what, 3 years, almost 4, I would say. Probably 4 is quite a while away. I'm probably missing dates and stuff like that, but it's around like 3 years I've been using Linux for now. So probably like 2.5 years we've been running this Linux channel, posting different videos, tutorials, Linux distro install guides, new stuff, new Linux things, new Linux gaming things, so many things. And I really do appreciate everyone just subscribing and liking the videos, and of course like my supporters, all that type of stuff. I really do appreciate it, as it encourages me to continue making videos about Linux, even though I'm still going to use Linux like forever as much as possible. As long as it exists, I'm going to continue to use it as on as many different devices as I can, etc, etc. So thank you again. And of course, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.